Welcome back to Stompbox Breakdown. Today we've got not one, not two, but three pedals. This is the Boss Fender Legend series. And since these are Fender style pedals, I'll be recording with the Fender style side of my Rivera amp, and I'll be playing this GNL ASAT. GNL being the company Leo Fender started after selling Fender in 1965. Let's get in a quick demo before I start in with all my talking. This is the Boss Legend series consisting of the FMB1, a Fender Bassman amp pedal, the FDR1, a Fender 65 Deluxe Reverb amp pedal, and the FRV1 Fender Reverb pedal. These two amp pedals came out in 2007 and were discontinued in 2013, and the Reverb pedal came out in 2009 and it ran for 10 years, being discontinued in 2019. And they're fairly unique. As far as I know, they are the only Boss pedals to get these one-off boxes like this. And they have this unique rough textured finish, which is kind of tweedish or Tolex-ish, I guess. And they've got this faceplate, which is done up in a Fender style, with the only Boss style lettering being the model name and the labels. And you'll see a lot of amp modelers say Fender amp without saying Fender amp, like 65 Silverface, and some actually license the name. Boss is essentially marketing these as the pedal versions of their real-life vintage counterparts. So I'm guessing it was quite the extensive partnership deal that resulted in these three pedals. Let's get back to that 59 Bassman, and according to the instructions, I should set my amp with treble and bass in the middle and a little bump in the mid. So let's start with that as our clean tone. And then we'll add the pedal in. Of course, I can also crank this guy way up and get something like this. Now about those controls, in the middle it's bass and treble, and on the left side there's a concentric pot for middle and presence, and level and gain on the right side. It's also got a bright in jack if you want even more high end in your signal, just like the real thing. And the FDR one has a few tricks up its sleeve as well. From left to right there's level and gain, and then treble and bass, and I just have to say, it really does have that classic silver-faced American indie, whatever you want, rock guitar sound to it. Now, I've played through a 65 reissue, and this definitely gets pretty close to that sound. Except the thing about those vintage Fender amps and the reissues is there's usually no preamp volume control on them. So in order to push those tubes, you really need to raise the volume on the whole amp up to where it's shaking the house. And that's not always practical. I won't be that guy and say, oh man, this totally nails the tone of those amps. But it definitely gets in that area, and I can get in that area at any volume level I want. So that's pretty good. What really makes this one fun for me is the rightmost knob, though. It's a concentric pot that adds in vibrato and reverb. So you can dial in a little extra shaky and spacey and get something like this. You can even hold down the pedal and tap tempo out the vibrato speed if you want to match it to a song's tempo. This is a very advanced pedal, and it might be my favorite of the three, but then I remembered just how good this third one sounds. The FRV1 Fender Reverb is modeled after the 1961 Fender Reverb unit, which is coincidentally the same tube-driven spring reverb unit that went into the 65 Deluxe Reverb amp. Spring reverb has, by definition, a sort of unnatural metallic effect. Compared with plate and hall reverb, which you get just by being in a room or standing in front of a solid object, spring reverb is what happens when there's a bunch of literal metal springs inside of a literal metal box. Most spring reverb pedals just shape the EQ and the timing of the effect to sound spring-ish, but it doesn't sound quite like a real amp, and that's why this pedal is so unique. For the controls on this one, starting on the left, you've got your basic mixer knob, which is the ratio of original to affected signal, a tone knob to help shape the EQ, and lastly, on the right side is a dwell knob, which is how deep that reverb effect gets. And if I pull this all the way up, you get something kind of cool like this. And that's just a crazy deep amp-like reverb effect. And I really like how responsive it is to my playing. Real spring reverb takes some pushing. It's like it's not there, not there, not there, and then all of a sudden it's roaring back at you. So it's that kind of reverb you can really play against. So yeah, this reverb pedal rocks. So what's the deal with these pedals? They are digital pedals on the tail end of Boss's Cosm technology before they went to MDP. Here's the thing, I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to use these guys. I can't just throw this on my pedal board as a dirt pedal, because if I do, I have to set up my amp specifically for the pedal. And then I guess just leave this on all the time? That's a little bit limiting. The reverb, yeah, I can throw that at the end of my signal chain and it's a reverb, but these other two amp pedals, I don't know. My best guess is they were intended for people playing through fairly vanilla amplifiers who want to get a taste of those legendary amps that everyone always talks about but cost an arm and a leg to get. And I can't help but think that there was more planned for the Legend series, and it just didn't pan out. We'll probably never get a straight answer, but suffice to say, these are pretty unique for their time, and also just a lot of fun to play around with, even today. I have to assume that these are mainly being bought up today for collectability purposes, and that might be a safe bet, because I'd imagine even if the algorithms could be extracted and re-implemented in the latest software, when it comes to the Fender-Boss relationship, maybe they're just better off being friends. So that's the tale of the Boss Fender Legend series pedals. Fun pedals and a really solid attempt at capturing the sound and characters of those amps and the reverb. And I sure had fun playing around with them. I hope you enjoyed hearing them, and I'll see you on the next Stompbox Breakdown.